Howdy, this is Sailor the Piper Man, Piper the Sailor Man, coming you once again from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. And I'm here smoking a Bones pipe with some good old Captain Black. And I just want to talk about something. Lately, you know that you look on the news and it's being covered all over the world about the Canary Islands, the volcano, and its continual eruption happening, and it's gotten worse, you know. And it's a sad thing because so many people were displaced. But I recall back in the 80s, geologists already were talking about the possibility of eruptions in 1980s. We're talking about almost 30 years. I was able to visit the island in 1985. Beautiful islands outside. And the interesting thing that I knew about the island before I got there was that my great grandmother's family and a descendant were descendants from the Canary Islands. And of course, the Canary Islands were first inhabited by a people called the Guaranches, which were the indigenous people going back millenniums, going back way back. They were isolated and developed their own culture, indigenous people, fish going, very basic domesticated hunter-gatherer groups. And then later on, as you know, the Islamic revolutions happening, and they swept across North Africa, and many Berbers to escape arrived on the island, but it was isolated for over 1,000 years. And finally, the Portuguese traveling by sea spotted it, explored it, went back, and the Spaniards made a decision to inhabit the island, and they had many wars against North Africans. North Africans being Muslims, Moors, until they finally decided to conquer the island, and people from Spain ended up going to the island, domesticating, growing crops, growing tobacco, and then from there, it was the launching platform into the new world. In other words, like Grand Central Station or LA, for you to get from one place, it was like a junction point to the various locations into the new world. So if you was a family that needed to travel, there were hundreds and hundreds of ships that left Canary Islands after Christopher Columbus discovered it, after Cuba was settled and Puerto Rico was settled and Santo Domingo was settled. They ventured off into what's called New Spain, which was Mexico. It used to be called New Spain. It was Spanish territory, Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina. Then they went on ahead into Peru and Chile. So a lot of the inhabitants from Spain and other peoples too, because the Spanish crown opened up for other people from Malta, other people from the island of Crete and Cyprus and Sardinia that were farmers to venture off into the New World and were given Spanish citizenship. To have gained Spanish citizenship, number one, you had to be Catholic and get baptized in the Catholic Church. And you had to be of a name. You had to be from a house with a good repute, good Catholic morals, and you had to have something that they needed, which was farming, and if you was a miner or if you was a warrior, well, they needed soldiers. A lot of my ancestors happened to be soldiers. and were the conquerors of the Canary Islands. Sorry to say, and a lot of them were part of a Catholic order that was established in France, and later on was transferred uh, by the Spanish crown up in the north of Spain, Galicia, the region of Leon and Castile. They were called the Order de Santiago. The Order de Santiago. It wasn't called Knights Templar, but they were the Knights Templar, but the Spanish version. And they protected the routes going toward the Cathedral of St. James, where St. James, the Apostle St. James' body was buried. So my ancestors, a lot of them were Jewish, a lot of them were Visigoths, of Roman descent, hodgepodge of people that had gotten intermarried, developed and became part of the priest caste, the merchant class, middle class, merchant, some of my Jewish ancestors, and then you had those that were dedicated soldiers. And my line was that they came from the Spanish. That's how I got the last name Santiago, was through the one of the pioneers whose name was Santiago. It was called the Order of Santiago of James. And you find a lot of people with Celtic, Galatian, Gallic, Celtic ancestors that ended up in Ireland, ended up in England, were descendants of these people. So they were all over the place until finally the Catholic Church turned against the Knights Templars, who had become the European banking system became more powerful than the Catholic Church, and so they wanted to do away with the Knights Templar. The reason they wanted to do not some religion, it was basically money. They had become more powerful. The military through the Crusades, they gained much more influence in the Catholic Church, and so the Catholic Church became militaristic. And after, in the Dark Ages, that's where they began taking control. When they were Rome was invaded, 400 whatever, and the Huns came and the Germanic people came. Attila the Hun king, and Rome fell. Of course, many converted. The Catholic Vatican Church wasn't harmed by it, and after that they began creating an army. The Vatican State created an army, wanted to influence a different monarchy, and so a lot of the monarchies worked hand in hand with Roman Catholicism to gain more control of the monarchs. And so it was decided to destroy the Knights Templars. Many of the Knights Templars that were in the Order of Santiago. I want to show you something. What it looks like. I have it here so that this is my family named back in the Canary Islands, the Lugo family. See that crescent there? There was the Knights Templar. A lot of it was in green, and they were given that after they conquered for the monarchy the Canary Islands. And you will notice the cross of the Knights Templar is this. They wore it on their chest. If you see anybody medallion with it, you'll know he's a Knights Templar. And so, I'm a Knights Templar by birth. because it's hereditary. So I'm not Catholic or anything, but it falls to the next of kin. And this is my 15th uh, great grandfather, Bartolomeu Perestrello from Portugal. He was a Knights Templar, and many others. And so the Knights Templars, had to flee Spain because the Catholics wanted to kill them. So a lot of them ventured off in hiding to Portugal, and Portugal began using them as mercenaries and as conquistadors. And many who were Knights Templar that were hit Knights Templar were also conquistadors for the Spanish crown. Before Isabella and Ferdinand, and they conquered Canary Islands. There's the conquistadors, the dictionary, the conquistadors of the Canary Islands. You can get this in English, or you could do research on it yourself. It's a history of how it was conquered. It was terrible, but that's what was done. And then, of course, people came afterwards and settled the land. And some of those happen to be my ancestors. And I want to show you a picture. Here's another one. 1670, Captain He's Mine. 18th great grandfather. So you notice it. I knew this to be true by oral tradition through my great grandfather. But after I took my DNA, I was able to. Here's my 13th great grandfather, Luis Perez Rincon. Notice Perez. A lot of them were Jews, Sephardic Jews, that converted to Catholicism. So, a lot of the Knights Templars, he was born in France. And died in Extremadura, Perez. A lot of my ancestors went with Hernan Cortez, and he's a conquistador Lieutenant General Tristan Arellano de Castillo Luna, 21st. He died in Mexico City, born in 1510. I hope that's a good picture. I can't. I'm getting a lot of reflection. But if you notice, these are my ancestors. So your ancestors were light skinned, me go. Sure they were. This is Antonio Perez, my second great grandfather from the Canary Islands. That's a family who came from Puerto Rico. Traditionally, they wore black. They were mixed Spaniard, Portuguese, who decided to come to the island. They settled the island. They were very prominent people. And so a lot of them that came to the Canary Islands ventured off on ships to the New World. And I want to show you that. See, everything I have One of my great grandfather was Sanchez de Enigno family of the New Mexico. He traveled from the Canary Islands and was an early settler due to the Spain owned the origins of New Mexico family. Eighth, he was my eighth. This is right there, can't. These are my ancestors coming down to me. So my ancestors, many of them ended up from the Canary Islands, went to Cuba. That's why I have DNA from Cuba, came to Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, and then from there, they went on ships later on. And then within 100 years, ended up selling in Mexico, Monte Cruz, Monte de Rey, settled in New Mexico, were among some of the early Indians. It is now known and proven this is my 12th. Juan Sarmiento, this is another conquistador. Who traveled to Colombia. Who do you think they married? Indigenous women. Right? Brought them back to Puerto Rico, brought them back to Cuba. This is another one. Juan Dominguez Havana. Was another one. Well known, who traveled and fought against the Indians, established colonies. Juan Lino Perez is another one. So I come a long line of, Spanish warriors, conquistadors. Here's another Knights Templar from the Canary Islands, my 13th grandfather. Notice where it says Canary Islands. And the Canary Islands was a staging ground and of course my most famous ancestor, Ponce de Leon. That's my ancestry. My 14th great grandfather, Ponce de Leon. He married an Indian woman. He couldn't marry her, not in the Catholic Church, so he kept her and he gave her father property, and the Indians and throughout the property, which we're the owners, whether like the land barons, you own half of the freaking mountain. And all our ancestors, all my cousins, and we all have partial lands there. And I have mine. So you always have warriors. This is my uncle in World War II. It's my uncle there, who went to Germany, came back, fought North Africa, fought Italy, made his way up with Patton until they liberated Berlin. There you go. You can read about his story. I'm gonna hopefully one day write about him. First Hispanic with an old white division. Yeah, half Taino Indian. great guy, and I'm very proud of him. He taught me a lot. He mentored me. You know, this is my son. He just finished. He works for the DEA now. And so we've always had strong family ties. And so what I'm trying to say is that the Canary Islands was a place where conquistadors left with hundreds of ships to New Orleans, to Mexico, to Brazil, the Portuguese. I'm 25% Portuguese. I didn't know that. I knew I had Portuguese family, and this is one of them. And you know, they were. I grew up very traditional, strong, old world values, and I'm proud of that. It made me who I am today. Made me responsible. This was my unit. All are gone except for me. That's me right here. This unit was lost in Lebanon. Killed. That's me right there. Graduating from medic training right here. And so I'll never forget those guys. You know what we went through. We lost their lives. And I'll always have that warrior mentality, that warrior spirit. Here's another one, Francisco, 1638, Knights Templar. So I'm known Templare, Knights Templar. In Jacinto, the one I want to show you is very, very important. That I'm just going to take my time in finding it because no one believes it. No one did believe my oral tradition until DNA results linked me to her. You know? And it was probably one of the most powerful vindications You don't believe it, man. Check this bad boy out. Christopher Columbus. Holy shit. I got some Italian in me, I'm telling you, man. A lot of intermarriage, a lot of okay. When the conquistadors married Catalina Torres, who was descendant of an Indian chief, and it's the lineage, you know? Why that is so important to you? Here's how the Knights Templars wore the cross. So the New World were settled by different types of orders, Masonic orders, Knights Templars. Some of the earliest were undercover Jesuit priests, fighting for power, and glory. And okay, this is gonna blow you away. His name is Ziba Tudama Mayorchoke Tudame Yamachoke, 15th grandfather, from the tribe of Musica in Colombia, indigenous. That's what I'm dark skin. I have a lot of Indian in me. Colombian indigenous, Amazon Indian. Her name was Catalina Sanchez Torres. And so they settled the New World. They opened up the Franciscans and the Jetta opened up missions to the Indians in New Orleans, in Texas, New Mexico territory, all that area, all Spain held practically all of South America and North Central America, and West was settled in the West by Spaniards and missions, Catholic missions to the Indians before